I've wrapped my briskets in beef tallow for over a year now, and I can 100% confidently say that it really produces great results. But what if there's a better fat to wrap your briskets in that makes your briskets even tastier? That's what I'm going to test in this video by wrapping chunks of brisket in beef tallow, some ghee or clarified butter, and regular old vegetable oil, and we're gonna see which one tastes better, so let's get smoking. Barbecue restaurants have been wrapping briskets in beef tallow for years, but it was really popularized when Mad Scientist BBQ brought it to the masses in 2021. Since then, it's come out that the top Texas barbecue restaurants do in fact wrap with beef tallow. We know this for sure because Goldie's Barbecue, which is the #1 Texas barbecue restaurant right now, told us in a YouTube video that they wrap with beef tallow. And there's also a really good probability that Franklin's Barbecue, which is a super popular Texas barbecue restaurant, also has been doing it for a while, and other top barbecue restaurants are doing it as well. So now all us home cooks are doing the same thing because, well, number one, it works. It makes the brisket taste better and more juicy, and it looks better. But I think more importantly, and probably the bigger reason, is that we tend as home cooks to follow the leader. Who's the GOAT, the greatest of all time? Who's the best barbecue restaurant? What techniques are they using? Let's follow and copy those techniques, and then we'll have awesome results. And don't get me wrong, I am guilty of this. I perpetuate it with all my YouTube videos. But it kind of ignores the fact that there could be a better way for us home cooks to do things, or at least a way that's less expensive and easier for the same results. And that brings me to the first fat I'll be testing in this video: regular old vegetable oil. What if we could wrap brisket in vegetable oil and get the same results that we do with beef tallow? That would be pretty game-changing because everyone has vegetable oil in their cupboard. And then there's the second contestant, ghee or clarified butter. Essentially what this is butter that's been simmered for a little while to evaporate all of the moisture, the water content, until you get just concentrated butter flavor and just pure fat. I'm testing this out because everyone has butter at home, and it takes just a few minutes to make this compared to hours and hours of rendering beef tallow. And finally, I'll be wrapping one chunk of the brisket with beef tallow. I make this by carving off the fat from the brisket that I don't use when I cook brisket. I render it down for hours, and it turns into basically pure beef fat. I have a lot of it here because I smoke a lot of briskets, but you can make your own at home just by using the fat trimmed off your brisket, simmering it down for a few hours, and then you'll get that liquid gold. But before I can wrap anything, I need to smoke it. So I'm preparing this choice Angus brisket with some kosher salt, then a layer of pepper, and finally a layer of Sure Shot Sid's gunpowder seasoning. While that brisket soaks up the rub on the counter, I'm preheating my Oklahoma Joe's offset with my grill gun. Links in the description section below. It'll light up a firebox in about 60 seconds, and you'll look like a boss doing it. If you guys don't have one yet, really recommend it. You should get one. It's awesome. Then the brisket goes on the smoker, and I smoke it all the way up to 190 degrees internal. Now I'm cutting the brisket in half and setting the flat aside, and I'm cutting the point in half to get 3 chunks of brisket in total. The first chunk of the point gets wrapped in tallow-soaked butcher paper with a bit of extra tallow poured on it for good measure, and then I pour it in a pan with half a cup of water, and I cover it tightly in foil. Moving on to the second chunk of the point, I'm coating some butcher paper in vegetable oil and then pouring some extra on top of it. Then it gets tightly wrapped and it goes in the pan with half a cup of water, and it gets tightly foiled. Now finally, I'm coating some butcher paper in ghee. If I was smart, I would have melted this ahead of time, but it'll melt during the hold period, so I'm not too worried. Then I put a dollop on the brisket and I wrap it tight. Unfortunately, I ran into an issue because one of the pans started leaking. That's what you get for trying to reuse aluminum pans. So I re-wrapped the 2 brisket points in some steel steamer table pans, and I used my last remaining good aluminum pan for the flat. And after that song and dance, I placed all of the pans in my Masterbuilt electric smoker and held them at a steady 150 until the next day. If you guys are wondering why I'm cooking the briskets like this, then just check out my latest video on how to smoke a brisket. That is the most recent method that I use to smoke all my briskets, and it'll break it down step by step. The next day, I took the brisket chunks out of the Masterbuilt and I got ready for some taste testing. All right, let's get this party started. The first brisket I'm going to test out is the one with the tallow, because that's the one I'm going to be most familiar with. So let's take that off. Take this bad boy out. Woo! Quite a bit of juiciness in there. There's that water mixed with all the tallow. You kind of see that that's dripping in there. Lots of drippings. Taste that. Tastes tallowy. Very tallowy. Is that even a word? Tallowy. Okay. We'll open this guy up. Looking pretty nice. I don't mind that at all. I'm going to tallow this guy up so we can get maximum tallow here. And let's see, which way should I cut it here? And just for good measure, I'm going to coat it in all of that tallowy goodness. And let's slice up this so I can get a nice little slice here. It's very good, perfect consistency, tender, juicy. That's how I like my brisket. This is the oil-soaked brisket. So you guys will remember this has butcher paper that was soaked in canola oil. And then I coated it in some more canola oil directly on top of the brisket. This is the point. A lot of drippings in there, just water mixed with oil. Definitely smells different. Smells more oily, I guess, which would make sense. The oil is less viscous. Viscous? I don't know how to pronounce that. It is, it's thinner oil, obviously, than the tallow. That shouldn't be a surprise to anyone, though. Yeah, it definitely smells a little bit different. Just smells more vegetable oily, I guess. All right, so let's take another slice. It's really good. It still tastes beefy. It's got a ton of beef fat in it. It's got a ton of juiciness. It's got a ton of beef flavor. It's very savory. It tastes almost exactly the same as the last one. The only difference is it has a little bit of that oily flavor. Like it tastes like vegetable oil a little bit. It's still really good though. You know what? If someone served this to me, I probably wouldn't be able to tell the difference. Especially because I've never used vegetable oil to wrap my brisket with before. And it looks a lot more shiny than if you didn't use any kind of oil. It just looks more moist, it's juicier, it has a better mouthfeel. So my first gut reaction from tasting this is if you don't have tallow available, this is a pretty good substitute. It tastes pretty good. As long as you're using a neutral tasting oil, it adds a lot to the brisket. It's really good. All right, finally, we are going to test out the ghee brisket. Now remember, this is the flat. Those other two tests were from the point. Oh my God, it smells amazing. This is insane. Oh my God, you're just hit with this huge whiff of buttery goodness as soon as you open it up. Oh man. I'm like excited to eat this. Just smelling it makes me excited to eat it. Okay, I'm gonna coat that a little bit. Whew, okay. It's gonna drip all over my floor. It's not good. Just chill out, ghee. Why are you so runny? Okay. Let's take a slice of this guy. That wasn't the best slice. Let me do another one here. Kind of cutting it at an angle. I think I went a little bit too far into the point when I cut it, but that's fine. The bark is still holding up really well, surprisingly. Okay. Let's get that coated with the ghee. Let's check this out. It still has a big chunk of the point on it. So I'm just going to separate that. Let's see how it pulls apart. It pulls apart pretty easily, but you can see that I kind of, it wasn't cut against the grain, so it had a bit of a pull to it. But if you look at the actual flat here, I'll pull that. Oh, beautiful. Okay, I'm excited for this. Let's give this a taste. Holy shit. That's really good. Oh my God. Guys, this is really good. Okay, first impressions of the ghee brisket after I got over how amazing it was. I couldn't even formulate words. This is so good, guys. It's like the most decadent experience I've ever had in my life when it comes to brisket. It's that tender brisket that just falls apart in your mouth with the bark and the perfectly rendered fat. And then there's this other layer of just distilled buttery goodness that is hard to describe. It's very, very good. So, as you probably noticed, I preferred the ghee wrapped brisket chunk. Now, that is just my opinion, which is problematic because I have eaten a lot of brisket before. I could just like this because it's kind of new and novel and it tastes good because I'm not used to it. So I wanted to get a second opinion. Luckily, I was going to my nephew's baseball game that afternoon, and my brother was going to be there, and I wrangled him into doing a blind taste test to get his second opinion.
Okay.
So try that one first.
Okay, so...
You could even try a burnt end, it doesn't matter, just like a little piece of it. Just make sure you get some bark.
Just blind?
Yep.
Okay.
And just give me your thoughts on that one.
Yep. Really juicy. Initial is really peppery on the bark. Pepper flavor really came through.
Are you noticing anything else, like the oil or the fat? Can you taste anything?
No. There's a little bit of a heat in the background, but it's probably just peppercorn.
Okay, let's move on to the second one.
Okay.
Just get a sample with like a bit of bark on it.
Yeah, I want some bark and I want some fat too.
That's an edge piece, but...
Oh, this one's much juicier. Bark is awesome. Bark is thicker on this piece. I'm getting a flavor through that I don't really know what it is. If it's just a higher fat or.
Does it taste fattier?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Does it taste beefier?
There's not only is it juicier and fattier, but there's almost a traditional beef taste that's coming through in the aftertaste, right?
Awesome. Okay, let's move on to the last one then.
Some of the meat and the bark here. This one's not as juicy or fatty as the last one, but I enjoy the flavor more. There's more of a smoky flavor coming through on this one. I don't know if it's just because I took a different piece from this, but I would say this one's my favorite.
This one's your favorite?
Mm-hmm. I don't know why. You know what? More of a thick smoke, much more of a peppier. The pepper flavor is like really coming through.
Mm-hmm. Anything else you're getting, like the type of fat, the fat flavor? You getting any other notes?
The fat flavor, like the middle one there, was more like a heavy tallow flavor. I'm not getting that here. This is like coming in lighter.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to describe it, but it doesn't feel like that big heavy beef tallow.
Right.
This is coming through as more of a lighter fatty taste, but still really juicy. Not as juicy as the last one, but I actually prefer this one over the other two.
Okay, awesome. So the first one you ate was wrapped in vegetable oil.
Okay, that makes sense.
The second one was with beef tallow.
Yeah, I could taste that.
And this one is with ghee, which is clarified butter.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
And you like this one the best?
I think so. Yeah, I really enjoy this one. Yeah, ghee it's used a lot in like East Indian food and stuff, right?
Yeah.
I think I prefer this one the most. It's getting that's true. Like now that you've said it, it's like that buttery flavor. Mm-hmm. That's the word I was looking for when I said it's not that heavy beef tallow. It's a really buttery flavor that's coming through.
Yeah, I agree with you. I like this one the best.
More.
It's kind of like a really luxurious.
Yeah, I like it. Like
experience.
Heavy smoke flavor, the pepper flavor coming through, and like more of a buttery flavor instead of a heavy fatty flavor.
Yeah. Are you still getting like beefiness?
Yeah, but it's not
as heavy.
Not nearly as heavy.
Yeah. So the results from this video were pretty conclusive. The tallow wrapped chunk of brisket was from the point of the brisket, which is usually juicier, it's fattier, it often tastes better. And the ghee wrapped portion of the brisket was from the flat, which is usually leaner, it's drier. But nonetheless, me and my brother both preferred the ghee wrapped portion of the brisket. In my opinion, the flavor was just a little bit brighter. It worked better with the taste of the beef and the rub. And it just tasted like concentrated butter flavor, which was an amazing flavor. In comparison, the tallow wrapped portion of the brisket, it was a little bit duller in terms of flavor. It was fattier, and it wasn't just fattier because it came from the point. There was definitely an extra layer of fattiness that kind of clogs up the taste buds in your mouth and just makes the flavors more muted. As for the vegetable oil, it was a little bit thinner in terms of mouthfeel, but it still added an extra layer of juiciness and oiliness to the brisket that made it taste better than one that was not wrapped with any kind of fat at all, in my opinion. But I could pick out the vegetable oil flavor a little bit, but that could have just been because I knew what I was eating. I knew that brisket had been wrapped with vegetable oil. my brother couldn't pick up any sort of flavor at all when he tasted it. So I do think that vegetable oil is a viable option as a last resort if you don't have any other fats to wrap your brisket with, but it wouldn't be my first preference. So do I think the ghee wrapped brisket tasted better than the tallow wrapped brisket? Yes. Will I switch over to ghee wrapping my brisket from now on? Not quite yet. In a video that I watched on Harry Sue's channel, he did a similar test, but he tested other things like wrapping with pork fat or lard. And what he found is that he liked the pork fat wrap brisket more, and he didn't like the ghee or clarified butter wrap brisket as much. It was kind of his third or fourth choice. So everyone has different opinions and they like different flavor profiles. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to experiment by cooking some more briskets and wrapping them in ghee and seeing what more of my family and friends think about it. They've all tasted my briskets that have been wrapped in tallow before. So if they think that the ghee wrap briskets taste better than the briskets that I cooked in the past, then I will consider switching over, but I want to get some more data at this point. But I'm most interested in hearing what you guys think about this. Would you try wrapping your briskets in ghee? And if you do you like it better than wrapping with tallow? Let me know in the comment section below. I'd be really interested to hear your opinion. And if you guys want to talk to other brisket nerds like myself and get instant access to me, then consider joining my Patreon. It's linked in the description section below. You'll get instant access to a Discord chat channel, which is the best part of my Patreon because you'll get access to an awesome community who are all on the same barbecue journey, and you'll get instant access to ask me any questions that you want. So I hope to see you there, and I'll definitely see you in the next video. Happy smoking, guys.